Hi. It says I'm live, so can everybody see me? Can anybody see me? I shaved right before doing this, so this looks pretty good. Not many red marks this time. Okay, one thing I noticed is that this is going to be a problem. I'm going to pause that. See, what I have is I'm learning each time. I have my preview, my actual YouTube studio screen right here, and then next to it, I have a separate window where I should be able to watch any messages that come in. So I'm going to start off. By the way, I hope you've had a good week so far. It's only Tuesday. I'm treating this, since I'm not working right now, I'm treating this as a job. I figured 1 hour. I know I'm saying a lot of times, but 1 hour should be good. I don't want to tire viewers out. I figured 1 hour, and I finally got a chance to see. Well, YouTube Studio finally gave me data on when viewers, I think it's when viewers are most frequently using YouTube or online or something like that, not necessarily watching this. So I found, well, what it said was it's 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. So I figured 10 going live, 10 o'clock for only 1 hour, because again, I don't want to tire people out. I want to leave them hanging. I want to be talking right through until the end. Would perhaps be a little early. So I wanted to move it closer to the noon. So that's why I started at 11 o'clock. Let me start off here by saying, is anybody out there? It sounds like I'm in NASA. Is anybody out there? Okay. So first off, well, I wanted to talk soon about Star Trek and my favorite other TV shows. I want this to be engaging. I want to entertain you. I want you to be involved too. I don't want to just talk about my updates and improvements on this channel the whole time, because that might just deter viewers. As I said before, I'm thinking about this as a full-time job, even though well, not necessarily a full-time job, but I'm treating this as a job, showing up, and gives me an excuse to dress up. And I want to talk about the amazing ability for stand-up comedians and infomercial lecturers to talk for who knows how long. I want to talk about that soon, because I was enjoying that last night. I was enjoying a few videos last night, and I thought it would be fun. I'll get to that soon. But it's a part of training. I've been a Toastmaster. Well, I had been a member of a Toastmasters group for a while, at least 1 year, maybe two, something like that. And actually, the reason I joined that was because I was a member of another fraternity group, and there would be an opening and a closing, and somebody noticed that I had been saying and to scripted stuff. It's just in my nature, I suppose. I should get rid of it. But I think I don't want to say mentally healthy people. I should say very thoughtful people perhaps tend to say and ah. All right. So he recommended that I join Toastmasters, and I did it. And there were other, life got in the way, and I left. But I want to build up that ability to be able to stand on stage and make a presentation. Trying to get comfortable here. So that's a good exercise. This will help me to speak publicly. even though it's behind in front of just a screen. All right, that out of the way, I want to get to what I've the fun stuff, at least for me, fun stuff I've been involved with. I ordered this. Well, first of all, someone, I may have mentioned this last time, but a family friend, sent me some birthday money, $250. And it's the first time I'd used an Amazon gift card. So I figured this, rather than put it into the bank, which would just suck up the overdraft fees, suck it up with overdraft fees and who knows what, and bills and so forth. No. Person wouldn't want me, I'm sure, to have it go to that. So the first thing that came to mind was this. And no, it's not something to bang creditors over the head with. It's a microphone. That's a stand for a microphone. I have a microphone. It's all packed up here. But for those of you curious what it is, you can look it up yourself. It's a Shure, SHURE MV7X. And that's especially adept for podcasting. And I know I've mentioned this before in earlier podcasts. I want to go into music and performance and so forth. So I was thinking both hands, doing this podcast and doing the singing. So in fact, I know I talked about this microphone in my last podcast, which is less than a week ago, because I think it was a Sunday that I did the podcast, and I was wondering whether the microphone would arrive before or after I did the podcast, because it was scheduled to arrive on that Sunday, that very Sunday. By the way, I should mention that the studio report, the YouTube studio report, indicated that the most purple, the darkest color of ours was Tuesday at 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. So that's why I'm here at Tuesday at 11 o'clock. It also seems to be that Sunday is another time. So perhaps I could do two live streams per week in addition to my other activities, just simply for the sake of being visible and increasing visibility and getting people to watch. This is the experimentation stage. I have 83 subscribers so far, which is really nice. Anytime I see a notice of another subscriber, that's really, really nice. I'm looking forward to having more, but I want to express thanks for having so many people subscribing so far. Let's get those numbers up. So back to the microphone. So I got the microphone, I got the stand, and I'm setting it up. I'm a Mac user, I'm an Apple user. And so I tend to just figure out how to put things together. My great-grandfather was really good with equipment. He was born in 1900. His wife was born in 1899, for some sake of a little bit of clarity. But he served in both world wars, and I'm very proud of him. I think it was either the First World War or the Second World War. I'm tending to think it was the First World War. He was assigned to one of two special units in the Army that was contracted out, and the terminology, pardon me if the terminology is a little vague, but basically the principle is that they were contracted out by, I think, either Radio Shack or it starts with a G. We bring good things to life. Anyway, a company like that. So they were contracted out. There were two units contracted out from this company. So it shows how intelligent he was and how he was able to figure things out and put things together. And I've thought about this sometimes. Had he been alive now, he probably would have been interested in, certainly in electronics, in computers, and so forth, and probably fascinated by computers and programming. Could have possibly in programming, although he could have been more involved in putting things together. But anyway, all right. Sometime maybe I'll talk about him. So, all right. So I, being descended from him, I just started putting the stand together, and as you can see, it's nearly together. I put it back in the box simply because I want to keep everything together. I don't throw away the box. I keep the instructions, everything. And I have the microphone, because it came in a separate box, a separate shipment, in the other box there. I have it together. I believe I have all the equipment except for one thing that I neglected to find. There's a cord, excuse me. There's a cord that plugs in the back of the microphone. ChatGPT has referred to it as something like XRL, maybe flipping some letters around, but something like XRL cord. And evidently that's a very important cord because I don't know where the other end of the cord would go, the end besides the one that plugs into the back of the microphone. But it probably plugs into an outlet or the computer itself. So I'm proud of myself. I paid money for that, not knowing, of course, that I needed the cord, but it's a good thing that I did not need the cord, because I probably would have spent money on the cord and not found money for this. I bought this, and I bought this document stand, and that's where it'll stay. And I, believe it or not, still had money left over for a book called How to Write Book Proposals, something like that. Very close to that, if not exactly How to Write Book Proposals. And you can probably tell where I'm going with the How to Write Book Proposals, because I don't want to give away what the topic is, but it's pop culture. I'll just say it's pop culture, toy related. And I've been working with Notebook. As a matter of fact, I started working with Google Notebook LM last night, because that's how I work. I just go sit on my bed, do some stuff on my iPhone, and then have an idea for a little bit more of my ongoing project. You know, when I say YouTube project, I mean things beyond that, my TV and film pitches, pitch deck, learning more about Notebook and writing the books, and of course the actual YouTube channel itself. And of course the microphone goes along with my singing and music, hopefully music career stint, whatever. So I worked more with Notebook LM. I have several projects in Notebook. Google Notebook allows you to have different kind of projects, or notebooks, actually, specific notebooks, where you can store resources and basically research material. And then I plan to use Google Docs to store the actual chapters. So one leads into the other nicely, cleanly. Now, this book, I used ChatGPT to, I simply asked it. It knows what my project is. As Samantha Bahar, 1980s retro character, persona, I should say persona. Character sounds like I'm creating a fake character. 1980s persona, female impersonation. I came up with the persona name, And I don't want to do this as drag. I want to do this as sincere expression of my own thoughts and so forth. So plus I like doing female impersonation. I want to develop, it's kind of like an illusionist. Don't want to go down a tangent there. But ChatGPT knows my goals and recommended that's the best book for really developing melody. I think for me, lyric writing might be easier, but I don't want to write the lyrics. I want to develop the hit melodies, the recognizable, catchy melodies, because knowing about 1980s music, being an aficionado of 1980s music, I know most of them, many of them are catchy and marketable, because you can hear the first few notes and you can recognize it and you can smile, and it brings back nostalgic feeling. So I want to compose that nostalgic feeling. I want to learn how to do that, and this book will hopefully show me how. I haven't even opened the book yet. Yeah, unfortunately, this bend came in the package. It came especially in the package. But anyway, it might have become bent like that anyway. But I treat my books as much in good condition as possible. So nobody's responded yet, but I'll just keep talking. So anyway, so I got this document holder. It's a little bit more advanced than the ones I have been using, a little fancier than that. And so I bought all that stuff, and then I only had to pay $5 something or other cents beyond the $250 gift, the check mailed to me. So, all right. So I guess we talked about my projects. I want to talk about more the fun stuff, what you would call the fun stuff, what I would call the fun stuff. I want to talk more about what entertains me, UFOs and the paranormal. I've been developing my YouTube videos, my podcast. There's one about the paranormal, specifically about UFOs, but I want to branch out. I want to talk about the Betty and Barney Hill case. There's an alternative explanation to that. I learned about last year, and I was fascinated by it. And I also want to talk about, perhaps I'll make that a video besides UFOs. I used ChatGPT to design the opening theme sequences for each of my podcasts, including this one. So my plan is to go live with this. This is the easiest way, the easiest podcast to create so far. And then post this again, an edited version of, give it the George Lucas effect. Come out with repost it again, but this time edited with the nice opening sequence, ending sequence, and then the vanity logo, which would be Visionary Ventures Productions. So as I develop this, I'm going to become better and better. This is going to give me an exercise in crafting really a YouTube video crafting media, television and so forth. Do you think television will last much further? I hope so. I know streaming is becoming prominent. I mean, streaming stuff. What stuff do you enjoy streaming? I remember borrowing back when the library would let you borrow a Roku, at least the library around here let you borrow a Roku device, and I would plug it in. And unfortunately, the movies, I had either seen all the movies or most of the movies they had available, or the stuff really didn't interest me. I'll tell you what did interest me. Sabrina, was it something like The Haunted, the Scary Adventures of Sabrina, something like that. For those of you who don't know, Sabrina, as far as I do, Sabrina, character, the witch Sabrina, started off as a comic book character in the Archie comics. Don't know if she was part of the Archie group of people, the Archie characters, Jughead and Veronica, and so forth. But I don't know if she actually interacted with them. She probably did. But anyway, they had, in addition to the Archie characters, they had Sabrina. I think it was actually called the Teenage Witch at the time. And they also had, what was the name of that group? The Josie and the Pussycats. I like their music. I have the whole cartoon series on DVD. It's really fun to see when you think of these cartoons, and you find out a lot of them only had 13 episodes. So you have the whole collection, one disc, maybe 2 discs. So that's nice. And I used to think of the Saturday morning cartoons as lasting longer. Now, of course, Super Friends lasted a really long time. It lasted something like 10 years, give or take. Because I know one season, it came out in the 70s. It came out in the 70s. And then there was a newer version a few years later. I know the final season was around 1984, 85. And that was something like the Galactic Superpowers show, something like that. But I'll give or take, I'll say it's something like 8 to 10 years. That's a really long time, especially for a lot of Saturday morning cartoons. What were some of your Saturday morning cartoons? Let me see if you can, feel free to add them in here. Okay, you hear me talking in the background there. Because nobody seems to have responded in the chat yet. If you're watching this, you found me. Okay. So I'll keep on talking. I liked Captain N the Game Master, because I liked Nintendo and they had several different characters. That's what introduced me to Castlevania, by the way. There was this character, Simon Belmont, and they took liberties. They were very creative about the design of the characters in the cartoon show. Fortunately, more recently, they came out with a Castlevania. I think it's on streaming service. I think it's even on Netflix. Castlevania cartoon animated series rather than cartoon. And I haven't quite flipped the switch. I haven't quite watched the show yet, but I might be very interested in it. I remember back in the day in middle school, actually. I'm going around in circles, actually. So yeah, Captain N, the Game Master, and that's what introduced me to Castlevania. And a childhood friend of mine described having played the first Castlevania game. I became familiar with the second game. That was my very first Nintendo game, home game I owned. I got the Nintendo with my bar mitzvah money. My mom bought the Nintendo Entertainment System, the original NES, and the first cartridge was not Super Mario Brothers. I didn't care about Super Mario Brothers. I enjoyed playing it, but I would rather have Castlevania. So she was able to find the Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest cartridge, and so maybe I'm more. Well, anyway, whether Castlevania or Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest was my whether I would have continued liking Castlevania if I had gotten Castlevania versus Simon's Quest, I don't know. But perhaps Simon's Quest is being easier to play. Perhaps it was better for me as a newcomer. I know my glasses seem kind of crooked. They always seem kind of crooked. So let me see what else. So back to the cartoon. What other cartoons? I like really rare cartoons. I like really rare TV shows. I talked about this a little bit before. Um, I remember back in 1984, I liked Alf, which was 1986, but 1984 was Zax, Benji and the Alien Prince, or some variation combination of those characters. I know the title in the title it had Benji, had Zax, and or Vax or something like that, and the Alien Prince, and it was like one kind of a few steps away from home movies. But this is put on television. I don't remember when. May have been Saturday or Sunday night or something like that. Maybe Saturday morning. I don't think it was Saturday morning night, but anyway, I think I would have remembered it being linked in with Saturday morning. But it was live action. It was basically almost like a home movie camera, just filming shots of filming shots of an episode of a TV show. It was a TV show. It was certainly aimed for a young audience. It wasn't childish in a sense, but it was aimed for a younger audience. It was about a young kid who was an alien prince on Earth, and there was a floating robot that was kind of a guardian for the kid. And now that I talk about it, it reminds me of another cartoon that I enjoyed Sunday mornings. Actually, I'll get to that soon. But it had Benji, who was kind of he was famous off on his own, but he was, I guess, roped into being part of this. I don't know where Benji fit in. It was just, I guess, he roamed around with the alien prince child and this floating robot, and very cheap, but certainly now cheap looking special effects. But I think it wasn't filmed. The look didn't look filmed. It looked more like home movie. So it was like basically it looked more live action. I mean, certainly was filmed live, but it's like a home movie camera. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Home movie camera from the 1980s. It's a very cheap budget, but I'm guessing. So I enjoyed that. I was a kid. Anything science fiction. I liked. Sorry, that I wanted to say yes afterwards. I noticed that my green shirt had a tear in the same spot. It's from the laundry machine. In fact, that's why I've been averse to washing a lot of my clothing at once. I'm very careful about the washing now. But you may see, if you see another shirt like that, that's why. It's my damage. Anyway, wound damage. So, yeah, this other cartoon, which actually I would remember watching in Sunday mornings, it was called Fantastic Max, and great opening theme. It was about a kid, a baby, still in diapers, and a very catchy tune. He has this robot that assists him with chores or just nursemaids him. And I guess when the parents aren't looking, I don't think you really see the parents. They're just presumed to be off somewhere else. But he goes off on these fantastic adventures, Fantastic Max, and they go to outer space and they go to various planets and so forth. And very, very catchy tune, Fantastic Max. I remember another show, V, that I talked about before. You can watch on an earlier. You can watch me talk about it on an earlier podcast. I don't want to repeat myself a lot, so I want to go back to mentioning something. Yes, another topic I have. I mentioned earlier about Nostradamus, or at least not sticking only with ufology in that documentary series podcast for this. I want to talk about bibliomancy. There's a book that I watched on YouTube video. I came across a video on YouTube. I don't know how, talking about this author, or the author was on being interviewed, something like that. his idea, okay, for those of you who don't know, Nostradamus was somebody who lived around 15th century, something like that, give or take a few centuries. Um, and he wrote these quatrains, and he was also known for other things, but they were assembled together in a book. Of course, Nostradamus, being French speaking, he was also Jewish, at least born Jewish. I don't know if he was necessarily practicing Jewish. It doesn't seem like he was practicing Jewish, at least publicly. So he wrote these quatrains, and I have one of them by Erica Chatham. I think that's her name. She just basically, and there are several books about Nostradamus that are like this. They just put the quatrains in. You see the quatrain on one side, hopefully in French, and then you see the translation on the other side. And then below, it's an interpretation of what the quatrain means. And excuse me, these quatrains are presumably predicting the future, and so he's been ridiculed or been skeptically analyzed. Nostradamus, I'm talking about, for just putting out meaningless stuff that didn't actually come to fruition or didn't come to happen. There's a famous one where he talks about Hister, and people say that that's like, maybe he was referring to Hitler and the Danube, and I think the Danube and so forth. I think they're off. I think a lot of times interpreters of Nostradamus will go to great lengths or try and squeeze something in, or they have imaginative minds and they just come up with a quatrain that seems to, or an explanation to kind of explain the quatrain. This person, however, this one who wrote this book, came up with a different idea. He thinks that Nostradamus used what's known as bibliomancy. As I understand, some religious people still do this. Now, I'm not saying that I believe bibliomancy works. I'm saying that from what this author claims, there's a close match between some books that he's found and the quatrains. A lot of the quatrains, it was something like 70 or 80, 90% of the quatrains seem to reflect certain books that he found, just, literature that has been preserved. So that got me really excited. I like the dramatic theory. I like when a theory actually finds close match. That's why I like dramatic theory. That's more of a scientific mind. When you can find a claim, this author's claiming that this was a particular book was what Nostradamus perhaps used to write as source material for these quatrains, and you can see a parallel between them or a close match between them. What this author is proposing is that Nostradamus had several books in his library, and he would pick one and randomly, or go to a random page, and then perhaps with extra cycles he had known about, cycles in history. That's also what fascinates me about Nostradamus. I see him more, rather than a prophet of the future, seeming more like someone who studies cycles in history. And I do believe that there are cycles in history. There's, one of them is now deceased, but there's a series of books by two authors. Their idea was that they're repeating cycles of time, what they call epochs. And there are 4 cycles, mini cycles in each epoch. And then, of course, after one epoch, you have another epoch and another epoch. But the same 4 cycles repeat. So at any one time in this cycle, one of these 4 cycles within the epoch, you have 4 different generations. And one generation is experiencing that cycle. I'll use my hands to diagram. Within these 4 cycles, there's one cycle, you have 4 generations. You have one generation in infancy or toddler, you know, being a child, toddler or child. Another one as young as an adolescent, one in adulthood, and one in elderhood. And then the next cycle, they each generation ages by one generation. So the children who were the generation that were children in this cycle are now young adults in this cycle, and then in the next cycle are adults, and then elders in the final cycle within this epoch. And then, of course, it repeats again because they have children and so forth. So there are cycles of generation. There are generational archetypes. So you have, let me see, it goes, you can start anywhere, but I'll just start with the prophet generation. The prophet generation has its own idiosyncrasies and mentalities and attitudes about the world. After the prophet generation, you have the nomad generation, and then, let me see, prophet, nomad, hero generation, which tends to fight as an adolescents, or, you know, younger troopers, younger people in the military. They tend to fight famous wars. And then you have the artists who rebuild the world, rebuild the country. They create works of art. Oh no, I'm sorry, they don't rebuild the country. They rebuild the country artistically. They create great works of art. This could be in television, this could be in film, this could be in architecture, so forth. But they create great works of art. And the model by these two authors illustrating these books is that a country goes through highs and lows. Now, highs and lows, that could mean either one's own personal self or the strength of the country, how unified the country is. You think inwardly or you think outwardly. Outwardly. So terms of nationhood, unified sense of nationhood, the good of the country could go through highs and lows. And during its low period, the self becomes very important, and as opposed to the country. And I won't go into it, but there are all sorts of different aspects of that. So I encourage you. It's Strauss, and at the moment I'm blanking on the name of the co-author, but it's Strauss and somebody. I'll give you some names. The fourth generation, the 13th cycle, something like that. Look up generational archetypes on YouTube. Yeah, sure. No, you should be able to find something on YouTube, but you can also check out Wikipedia and so forth. Just online, look up generational archetypes and Strauss, and you should be able to find it. So anyway, going back to these cycles through history, Nostradamus, I suspect, was a student of cycles in history and put those concepts that he had into his bibliomancy, if that's truly what he was doing, according to this author. So it would take Nostradamus, according to what this author suspects, would take a book, perhaps randomly, and then open up to a random page, and then use that as inspiration to write a quatrain. And this author has identified certain books. I really want to read one of those books. I mean, not those books, but I mean, I really want to read this author's book. But I found it online. I found it on Amazon, and it's in my birthday shopping list. I have several different lists on Amazon. I have one called UFO books. I have one called Samantha for the Samantha stuff. I have one called birthday gifts. And that's all the stuff. Basically, the stuff I just genuinely want, I'll put in there. I'll save in there. So that's one of those books. And I want to do a video. Perhaps I'll do a video in that documentary series. I want to keep the number of podcasts definitive and short. I have for them so far, in addition to this pitch and these TV and film pitch ideas. that I'm going to work with Google Slides on creating the actual pitch decks and put them in Vimeo, a different website, not YouTube, but Vimeo. That's more for pitching to executives. So all this is in the works somewhere. I haven't yet gotten into infomercials. I really want to talk about infomercials, those scammers. Now, some of them I enjoy. I enjoy watching all of them. I was watching yesterday, over the course of yesterday. Do you have any infomercial scammers you like? I remember Dupree, and one I enjoyed actually was Matthew Lesko. Now, I don't consider him a scammer, but by the way, I wanted to mention this. I have a book I bought from. It was the author was on Coast to Coast AM with Ian Punnett. And I've gotten a few books based on authors he's had on his show. He had a weekend version. He hosted it on weekends, Coast to Coast AM on the weekends when Art Bell wasn't there during the week. But I enjoyed some of his stuff. I think it's called something like "And the Kitchen Sink." I still have the book. It's in the other room, but it's about these scammers. And no, there's one. I agree, they are really scammy. Susan Powder, I think, was genuine. I think Susan Powder just was enthusiastic about losing weight and empowering primarily women, I guess, but empowering people to lose weight and get into better shape. But some of them are really scammy. Matthew Lesko, though, I didn't think of him as a scammer. I knew he had an infomercial because it was advertised. He's that guy that would wear colorful outfits. He looked like the Riddler. He had these question marks. I wondered how much money it cost him to get these outfits. But he would have like a green outfit or a pink outfit or orange outfit or whatever, red, purple outfit. And the one thing in common was he'd have these, they were designed essentially the same. He'd have these question marks, and it was free money from the government, free money from the government. And I enjoyed watching him, first of all, say free money from the government. And it was just entertaining. And I'm sure that was the point. He knew how to get an audience and keep an audience. And aside from that, I was intrigued by this free money from the government. And I know now I was in high school when he really became big, and it coincided with me being interested in going into politics. And I won't bore you. I've mentioned this before, but the 1992 presidential campaign interested me. They had happened that they had three different people, and I was kind of coming of age, and the election that the first election that I would be able to vote in was coming up. So when I would turn 18, so I guess that had something to do with it. But I was just more worldly involved. I want to say involved, but like more looking out to the world. So free money from the government, and I was fascinated by what these sources of funding could be. Like, of course, I grew up with a not so wealthy mother, and so that intrigued me too. Like, how can I get free stuff? Not necessarily just free stuff, but make my life better, make my livelihood better. I mean, the money's out there. So anyway, so I enjoyed watching him. He's still on. He still has a YouTube channel. He's, of course, not as lively physically because I think he's 80 something. Who are the real scam? Let's go back to the real scam artists. Dupree. They're McCorkle, William J. McCorkle. Which ones really fascinated you? Which ones did you enjoy? Tommy Vu. Wu or Vu. I think it's Vu. Tommy Vu. I just like watching his youthful face. He looked like something like 18 or 20. Maybe he was, but maybe the Asian genetics perhaps helped him look young. But his pronunciations and so forth. In fact, there's a movie. Oh, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I see it as a dark comedy. It's clearly a dark comedy. It's based on a true story. They have a character in there. He's not present for the entire movie, but in one scene you could tell this character is based upon. And the actor playing this character, clearly based on Tom Vu, is a comedic Asian actor, and I know he was in one of the Transformers movies. So already that should be a big clue as to whom I'm talking about. He's been on game shows. He's been on other things. I'm blanking on his name at the moment, but he was the one that played that. Now, who's the wrestler? Darn it. He's been a serious actor. A good actor. I would say, please don't take offense to this. In the new Arnold Schwarzenegger, he'd been a wrestler and then he had gone into acting. It's amazing how many of these actors have gone into wrestling. You've got Hulk Hogan. You've got, Mr. T is kind of a different, interesting case, but you got Hulk Hogan. You've got Mr. T, who was a bricklayer. He a really sincere, good guy from what I've seen. I think he's a good role model for people. I don't know about his character B.A. Baracus on A-Team, but if you look at Mr. T himself, has a positive attitude. He came out with a rap song. I don't know if he wrote it himself, but essentially "Respect Your Mother." So I think he's a good, decent guy, which is hard to find these days. A good, decent role model. So anyway, hope I don't find something about him later on. No, I've learned that people are multidimensional, and there are good aspects. There are ugly aspects. Heck, JFK is my favorite president of all time. Bill Clinton is another favorite. Well, for those of you curious, and it's not intentionally this way, but JFK, Truman, FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, Thomas Jefferson, Lincoln, and I added Bill Clinton. So that's only one Republican in that group. I didn't plan it that way. I didn't have a bias that way. So I do vote Democratic. If you want to find something to comment to me on, there's another thing to comment on me on. Just try to keep it apolitical, or at least respectful. So, but I would like comments. I would enjoy comments. So anyway, all right. So, right. So a lot of people, right. So back to role models. You got Hulk Hogan, Mr. T, or not role models. So Mr. T had been a physical type of character. He was a bodyguard, probably other thing, bouncer, perhaps something or other. So he acted in Rocky III. That may have been his first role, maybe not, but certainly, arguably, it was his first major role. And as a matter of fact, from what I've read in comments to, reaction, comments posted on first-time reaction videos on YouTube to Rocky III, people will comment and say that he took his mother with him to see Rocky III. Now, this is an adult taking his mother, so right away that's respectful. And she was so disheartened, just put it politely, so disheartened by him behaving this way on screen. And he was he was portraying a character on screen. Very different, I'm sure, from the way Mr. T truly is. Hulk Hogan. So anyway, so this actor that I'm trying to think of, I know he was in a movie called, I can't remember the name of the, I'm really blanking on names today. I remember the plots more so than I do the people. There's a stand-up comedian, the two of them, something like intelligence. Oh my gosh. Something like state intelligence, something like that, where this wrestler portrays a character who used to be fat, and he's haunted by having been seeing himself as fat. So anyway, so that's the actor I'm thinking of. He was in this movie. It's based on a true story about some guys who get coked up on drugs and they commit a whole bunch of crimes, murder, and so forth. And anyway, what I'm getting back to is this infomercial guy. So there's this one scene where you see this Asian, really enthusiastic Asian motivational speaker trying to pitch something, sell something. And it's clearly based upon Tom Vu. So back to infomercial scammers. I'll be reposting this, perhaps with edited ending sequences and so forth. I'll be giving it the George Lucas job. I'll be doing that with all of these podcasts. Well, at least this podcast, because it's live, you can't edit it while you're going live. But I'm going to make it a thing to post live, and then after that to download this video and then edit it and make it look really nice with opening credits, closing credits, and the vanity logo. So feel free afterwards to post comments. What else? I've talked about favorite TV shows. I've talked a little bit about the paranormal. Now, here's where I stand in terms of the paranormal. I think that it's a fascinating topic. I've always been fascinated by the paranormal. I was more open to the idea that aliens were visiting Earth. As I have grown up, I have been persuaded. Okay, here's where otherwise. So I think there are a lot of explanations. It's kind of like the way I think of the Torah or the Jewish Bible, or I guess, well, speaking from Jewish point of view, Jewish Bible, Christianity to some extent. I'm fascinated by it. I think study of it has high merit, but that doesn't necessarily mean I believe it's physically true. Sadly, I think we've become too literal. There are too many literalists roaming around. There's a thing between literalists and mythicists. I'm more of a mythicist. I believe that the Torah is not factual in terms of having actually happened, but that's not to say that, but that doesn't mean that it's not important. It has a lot of philosophy, especially good, healthy philosophy, especially when you delve into the deeper interpretations of it. And I want to create a course, a playlist in this YouTube sphere, explaining, video 1, video 2, video 3 as a real course, explaining the hidden patterns. There's a deeper meaning. Too many people read the surface layer, and they also go into it thinking about a literal interpretation, like a whole bunch of people were killed. Well, I don't think of it that way. I don't think anybody were killed. I think it's trying to express a point. Like you watch a movie. Well, how could you? It's like watching a movie, like The Guns of Navarone or something, Star Wars. You watch the movie, a whole bunch of people die, a lot of horrible things happen. What's the author trying to convey? What's the philosophical point that the author is trying to convey? That's how I see the Torah and the Jewish Bible. So I find it very fascinating. And there are other aspects of Judaism that I find fascinating, and perhaps Christianity. Um, I want to read the Quran. I want to read it in its original language. Now, I've certainly studied a lot of Hebrew, the language, and so I can understand that to a good extent. And Christianity, I want to learn Koine Greek, and that's actually it's good that I'm doing this video because I haven't remembered it until now. I do want to learn Koine Greek. I want to get a sense of what each gospel's point is. I hope nobody takes offense to this, but I personally believe that the gospels were written with different audiences in mind. There's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then there's Revelations and Acts and so forth. They were written for specific audiences, so I don't take them literally as having actually happened. I don't believe Jesus actually existed. I want to do a documentary on this. And I'm trying to figure out where to put it. It wouldn't fit into the paranormal. Maybe I'll create a separate, maybe I'll put it I'm thinking of it as an addendum, like a course further down in the Bible course series of videos, the Bible playlist. So when I stop explaining, when I fully explain the Hebrew Bible, I'm looking forward to doing something on the Christian Bible, my own take, my study of it. I'll probably put a disclaimer at the beginning, but I believe that it was Roman propaganda. I believe it was Roman propaganda by Vespasian and by not Tito. Anyway, his successor, the emperor who took over after him. And it was partly against the earlier dynasty, because the earlier dynasty, King Nero, and even in modern times, you see Republican, Democrat. It's not like it's one long history of presidents. It's more like the presidents badmouth earlier presidents of the opposing political party. So there's precedent for this in history. So that's why you see 666 or 616 in some texts being a possible, having a possible solution in the name Caesar Nero or Kaiser Neron. I believe that it was Roman propaganda I'll talk about that later when I get to it. But that doesn't mean that there aren't important truths within it. Just because it doesn't, I don't believe it actually happened. So anyway, so back to the audiences, the Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. I believe each one of them, the reason there are 4 gospels is because each one was to the Greek audience, one was to the Hebrew audience, one was to like a more modern Roman audience, and so forth. And I forget what the 4th one was. I'm looking forward to doing that in the playlist. Also, as this winds down, it's about 1 minute, 10 seconds left. What ideas do you have? What ideas for this channel do you want to see? What interesting ideas, what ideas do you have for opening sequences, ending sequences? I know I'm posting a lot of different places. I post on, where do I post? I post on YouTube. I've been posting sometimes on Instagram. I do have a Buy Me a Coffee account, a page, which is now working. I've gotten one friend to test and make sure that she was able to donate $1. So it is working. It's all new to me, so I don't know how long that'll take, but to gather enough money. But I'm looking to revise that buy me a channel, or buy me a channel, buy me a coffee page. I still have the external camera in mind. I've got two possibilities for which one to buy. I've got commissioning for some things, licensing fees. And so with that said, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk with you soon, perhaps this Sunday. Thanks.